Welcome to another PB, ladies and gentlemen. We were just talking about how Drew's got us tickets to see The Streets next year in Ludlow, so we're looking forward to that. Yeah, I know. It's like we really like The Streets back in the day. Still to this day, love The Streets' first album. But their first three albums were all good, but their first album was just like a classic. And I was saying to Drew, it's going to be hilarious because I can imagine there's going to be like a lot of chavs there, just like pilled up, just like loving it, and then there's just going to be us there like randomly, but it's just going to make it even more funny. I'm kind of looking forward to it in a way, just like looking around me and just like imagine just really loved up like chavs coming up to you where they're all just pilled up being like, oh mate, oh this is amazing mate, and just be like, yeah man.
In the castle as well.
yeah in the castle, which is going to be epic. But I just had a hilarious memory because apparently the album they're going to be playing, it's like the anniversary of like A Grand Don't Come For Free, which is The Streets like second studio album. And that's the album that's got like Blinded by the Lights on and like Dry Your Eyes, Dry Your Eyes, mate. And I don't know if you remember this, Drew, but I have this like hilarious memory. This is when we would have been like 18 or 19 at the most. Of you, I think I like came over to your house and you said that you just like gone out the front of yours and just like stuck on that track and you just had like a little cry to yourself. I don't know why, but that's just like almost like the most like ridiculous funny image in hindsight, isn't it? Just like
heart and breakup song.
Plenty more fish in the sea. Dry your eyes, mate. That's exactly the sort of song that I imagine somebody that's lived in Hartlepool would stick on when they're bereaved. Do you know what I mean? even though the streets aren't from there, it's just like just imagine like, why man, yeah, dry your eyes, mate. Go dry your eyes, mate.
That's it. Yeah, I can definitely imagine that happening.
yeah. But yeah, well, it's just
fun.
Just me and Drew today. Imogen is in college. She couldn't get out of college in time to do this. So yeah, it's just me and Drew flying solo today.
Flying solo.
Man, it's such a funny addition, I think, like Imogen to like the show and stuff. She's just like she's such like a comical person. Just like always cracks me up like a funny input. Like the other day, I was recording her radio show Good Times, which by the way, for anybody that wants to listen to Imogen's show Good Time, it goes out on 2 p.m. on Fridays on AW Radio. So you can listen to that on the website. Just type in Aspen Waite Radio or AW Radio, find the website. Or we've also got an app as well, so you can download the AW Radio app. And then you can just listen to it on there. And obviously, in certain places in the southwest, it's on DAB as well. So, especially if you're like around the Cardiff region and around the Salisbury region, you should be able to find it on DAB. But yeah, we're doing a show, Good Times, and it's like it's her birthday on Sunday. So I thought it'd be fun to almost do like a let's get to know Imogen. So I asked like all of these like rapid fire questions, and the whole thing was like, when you just ask somebody like a question, and it's like the whole idea is that they have to answer like straight away, like they're not allowed to think about it. And it's just like quite basic questions though. Do you know what I mean? Like, like coffee or tea, or like daytime or nighttime, things like that. Like, and one of the questions was, what's your favourite way to eat potatoes? And she just looked at me and went, with my mouth, obviously. And I was like, but like looked at me like I was an idiot. I was like, no, I mean like chips, roast potatoes, mash. And she was like, oh.
She took it very literally.
Yeah, she was like, with my mouth. She like looked at me like I was such an idiot, and then was like, with my mouth, obviously. I was like, you fricking spanner. You absolute spanner, It was funny. I was listening back a little bit to like last week's episode when she was going on about the fricking Mongolian blue spot or whatever. And I was like, mate, what a fricking name. Like, what a fricking name. I've literally never heard that in my life. A Mongolian blue spot.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a learning day that day.
I know, it was a bit mental, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We kick off the show with a nice little philosophical quote. This is by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and this is tolerance will reach such a level that intelligent people will be banned from thinking as to not offend the imbeciles. And I think that's quite like a poignant quote.
Sorry, say it again, man.
It's tolerance will reach such a level that intelligent people will be banned from thinking as to not offend the imbeciles.
It's already happening.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like this, like, you're told what you can say and told what you can think, and it's like, even if you say something, even if it's like blatantly obvious, if it's seen as literally offensive, like it's in that quote, then it's almost like regardless of if it's true or not, you can be like demonized or even maybe like locked up just because it's quote unquote offensive.
Yeah. and encouraged not to say it all, and just be tolerant instead.
Yeah, but it's like at what point?
Whatever you're hearing.
Well, I mean, it reminds me a bit. A couple of weeks ago we were talking about apathy. And about like what like the definition of the word apathy and how I think we're a bit of like an apathetic nation, and it's a bit like at what point is everyone basically just like burying their heads in the sand? Do you know what I mean? And it's like what good is that doing us? Do you know what I mean? It's like it's not doing us any good to be apathetic or to bury your head in the sands or as like in that very good quote, just to like not say truth, not to speak truth out of fear of being offensive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it reminds me. Yeah, go
on. I don't know what the quote is, but your dad has said it sometimes. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing.
Yeah, that's a great quote, isn't it? That's a great quote, and I really believe in that. And it reminds me a little bit of that Abraham Lincoln quote I've said several times before on the pod, I think, and it is what is it? It's I put myself on the spot now, and then because I put myself on the spot of having a brain fart, it's it's very, very similar to that. It's do you know what? I can't remember. Just can't remember. I'm gonna look it up. It's like one of those things like normally I'd be able to say it, but because I put myself on the spot, I can't think of it. It's like Abraham Lincoln quotes. Let's have a look. Abraham Lincoln quotes. I should be able to remember it. It's like one of my favourite quotes. He was a banger for quotes.
He's got loads of.
Mate,
good
Abraham
ones.
Lincoln was a really cool guy. I'm a big fan of him.
I like the one he says about sharpening the axe.
Yeah.
Do you know that one?
Yeah. What is it like? If he had an hour to cut down a tree, he'd spend 59 minutes sharpening the axe, or whatever. Like something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's just something along that lines, isn't it? Or like if I had 3 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend 2 hours cutting the axe, sharpening the axe, or whatever.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, that's so good. It's like, yeah, it's really along those lines. Let me try and find it a minute. But yeah, he's got loads. He was such an impressive guy. As I said, really, really unique, charismatic guy as well, because he was like 6'7" or 6'8" or whatever he was, and he was like a wrestling champion in his youth, which is sort of like, I feel like I feel like it's impossible not to, at least on some level, appreciate like physically impressive feats. Do you know what I mean? And I think whenever you hear like somebody was like a champion wrestler or something, you're like that's just cool. And then like the fact that he did that, but then went on to being this like really wise, philosophical, compassionate president, because he was obviously the one that banned the slave trade as well. Like banned slavery in America, I should say. So obviously you're like a very just and moral man, as well as like a physically mighty man. And I always think it's like, for some reason, almost like I find it more impressive when someone is that just and that concerned about ethics, when they are almost like that physically impressive, because I feel like it's very easy if you're like 6'8" in this like wrestling champion to almost like naturally go into that like warlord philosophy of like just trying to conquer everything by might, because most people that are that, genetically gifted and then put in the hours of that training can do that. So then it's like, if you still choose the diplomatic, democratic, ethical way, then that's like, to me, that's almost like more impressive, because it's like, it's like you could just like almost like dominate everybody, but you're choosing not to, which I think is really, really impressive. This is quite a nice little quote by him, isn't it? This isn't the one I was thinking of, but it's, whatever you are, be a good one. I think that's good. Yeah, that is good. This is a good one as well. Character is like a tree and reputation like its shadow. I feel like that's one to like sort of dwell on a little bit, but I like that. That's a good one. No man has a good enough memory to be a successful liar. That's a good one. Nothing valuable can be lost by taking time. It's important to remember. Most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. That's a good one, isn't it?
Getting showered with wisdom today, man. I love it.
Thanks, Abraham.
What a good lad.
Good old Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, it's mad that he was assassinated, wasn't it? Like, what like an amazing president. And then of all the presidents, he was the one that was freaking assassinated. Well, obviously there's been
so many people
several,
that have been assassinated. I think, imagine what they would have done, or what the world would be like if they weren't.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, think like JFK and that, what he was trying to do, and it seemed like he was really like kind of for the people and everything, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, oh, definitely.
Mm.
There's been several as well. What was it? Was it Salvador Dali? There's been loads of people that, like really, really like. Sometimes it almost seems to me like it's actually like the best people that are assassinated in some ways. Obviously, not always. Sometimes, I guess, I'm struggling to think of an example actually of somebody like really, really overtly evil that was assassinated. But
yeah, and like on the good side, even like the recent one with Charlie Kirk and that,
yeah,
he was only 32.
Yeah,
31 or 32.
Yeah, younger than us.
And like think of everything he already accomplished and what he stood for and everything. It's like, God, what he could he have gone on to do as well,
Yeah. Oh, definitely, man. Definitely. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? This is a good quote. I am a slow walker, but I never walk back. I like that one. It's almost like take your time, be methodical. Like to some people, it might be frustrating that you're not doing things quicker and rushing things. But if you do rush things, what you end up having to do is almost like damage control, because you'll inevitably mess up along the way if you rush things and do things overly quickly. Then you're constantly then having to then make up for it and then fix it and stuff like that. Whereas if you're a bit more like chill and a bit more methodical, take the time to plan, take the time, right, have we got everything that we need? Have we put in the work for this? Have we put in the prep? That is like a better way to do things, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely overall.
Yeah.
It's like you can want to jump the gun sometimes, like an excited puppy.
Yeah.
But be like the wolf.
And I always think we it's like easy to think of like examples of that, isn't it? Like in our own lives, like if you're in a rush, that's when you like go to grab the car keys, but then the car keys fall on the floor, and then you're like, and then you pick up the car keys off the floor.
I'll give you an example.
And then you rush past the door, and then your sleeve gets caught on the door handle, and you're like, and then it's like everything just goes wrong.
Mate, and the other day, like I was up the unit and I was like doing the guitar body and like routing out like a big router that routes out like the pickup holes. It's like a big bit of kit, really, like a very dangerous bit of kit. And if you don't use it properly, sure. And I had like 10 minutes to go, so I'm like, right, I routed out the pickup, the cavity on the back for like the for the electrics and that, and I'm like, I'm gonna do the pickup ones as well. So I was like really rushing and stuck the pickup template on and everything, and was like, and then I was like, yeah, I can do it, and like was just proper rushing with it.
Yeah.
And I literally just picked the router up as it was still spinning and tried to take it out of the template, but before it stopped, and it just like whizzed all up the template, like just took a big chunk out of it. So I couldn't use it. Luckily, it didn't do anything to the actual guitar, but it just rendered that template useless, and then I had to buy a new template before I could even carry on with the build of the guitar. So I had to wait like 4 days or whatever for it to come in the post and everything for me. So it's like, just that little tiny bit of rushing, rather than being like, I'll just do this next time I come up here. Like, is that?
Yeah, definitely. And I said
behind days then.
Yeah, I think we can all think of examples of it as well. And also, it's like if you're rushing as well, it's like not only do you accidentally make mistakes like that, but I think you're also likely to like forget things as well. And then it could be something like really crucial. Like imagine if you were like in a rush and then like wherever you needed to go, you really needed something specific, like something that was in your wallet for it, but then you forgot your wallet or something. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it just defeats the whole object. This is a really good quote. I like this one. Better to remain silent and to be thought a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt. That's a great quote, isn't it?
What's that? Say that one again.
Better to remain silent and to be thought of a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt. That's good, isn't it? That's a good one. I like that one. I think it's just saying like really be careful what you say, isn't it? Sometimes it's better to say nothing at all. I remember there's like an old Viking quote, and it's like, words are silver, silence is golden. And that's sort of like similar, isn't it? I think. I think it's almost like, only speak when necessary.
Yeah.
When you're actually contributing. Otherwise, it's just noise.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, man.
Words have power too, man. Be careful what you say.
Yeah. Well, it's like I think in like old vibes. In some like folklore and stuff, and like they used to think that like words were literally like magic, didn't they?
Well, yeah, and it's in the name, spelling. When
That's a good point.
Spelling, I remember someone saying that before, and it's like you're actually casting spells, like with the words that
I wonder
you
if that
say.
literally is like the etymology of the word. Do you know if that is, or is that just
talking about? The person who was talking about it, like, used it as an example. I'm not sure if it's like officially or it's just kind of what, but maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be cool if it was.
Yeah, man.
But it made sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, do you know what? I'm so annoyed. I can't find the actual original quote that I was like looking for. It must be like one of his less like common quotes or something. But it was really similar to that one that you said anyway about like like the what was it you said about? It's like the path to evil, or was it like when good men do nothing or whatever?
Yeah.
Have you forgotten
all
that?
That is necessary for the triumph of evil is good men do nothing.
That is a great quote.
Good men do nothing. It is, and it's true, isn't it? And it's like you say, if you're kind of almost like forced into silence as well, or pressured into silence, but you're a good man, and like you're not saying things because you're worried about like the repercussions or whatever, then that will cause evil to triumph, because the things that are wrong are like happening in the world around you, and they become more and more loud and more prevalent, and it feels like it's happening right now, man. Like,
I agree, and I think as and we've talked about this a little bit on the pod, but I think that we're almost like in. I don't necessarily think it's like in like a conspiracy theory type way, like, but I think we're almost like encouraged, not necessarily deliberately encouraged, but like encouraged to see things more subjectively than they actually are. And when I say we've talked about it in the past,
things are black and white.
Yeah, like when I say we've talked about it in the past, we've talked about the difference between something being subjective and something being objective, and then we use like the examples of like murder and rape are like objectively bad. There's never ever like an instance where you could say like, oh well, that's subjective, man. It's not like, oh no, it's not. I mean, you have to have objective right and wrong in society to have a successful society, because otherwise it becomes chaos. But I think what's happening especially in like Europe and the UK at the moment is that it is becoming like chaos, and things have been treated as like overly subjective. Not only are things being treated as overly subjective, but there does seem to be, I mean, obviously, there's like these like sayings that go around the UK, like 2-tier Kia, and there's like a 2-tier policing system, because it does seem that there is like almost like one rule for certain types of people and then a different rule for other types of people. And then not only that, but it seems like the people that seem to get the worst end of the bargain are the people that are just say like, let's just say like native Britons, that were the ones that like family, like parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, going back in some cases thousands of years, that have like contributed to the country through taxpayers' money, through literally like fighting and dying in wars. Like, I know that like several of my family members died in the First World War. I had like on my mum's side of the family, somebody that fought in the RAF during the Second World War. My dad's side of the family, my great uncle Bill fought, was a Royal Marine at D-Day. Do you know what I mean? So it's like these are people that have like in real tangible ways contributed to like to Britain, and like whether it's through tax money, which is literally like we wouldn't have our cities and anything if it wasn't for taxpayers' money. Not only that, but obviously we need to remember that like the police, the fire brigade, politicians themselves, teachers, etc., are all paid for by taxpayers' money. These are all like quote unquote public services, so that's all like money that's paid essentially by us. But it's like it seems that all of those people are getting the worst end of the stick, and then sometimes the people that are actually in a lot of cases even doing the country harm, or at least aren't, or maybe either aren't contributing anything, but other than that aren't, not saying that they're bad, but they're just not contributing anything and haven't contributed anything prior, or they're actually degrading society. Yet they seem to be the ones getting off the most lightly. It just how can you as like
that is pretty black and white with a prison sentence. That's quite black and white. You can see it there. You can't argue with it that it's subjective or anything like you're saying. It's just like, why would someone get less time for something like that? And someone get more time for something like that?
Use like sexual, we've talked about recently on the pod about how like sexual assault cases are on the rise. I've heard of loads of sexual assault cases even in the last week, I'll share some examples of them in a minute, just to, just because, let's face it, it's not a nice thing to talk about, but I think, as we talked about before, it's almost like our responsibility as adults to take these things seriously and to not be apathetic and to not have our head buried in the sand. So I think, it's like spreading awareness, because if we don't do it as people that are in our 30s, I expect most people that listen to the show are either in their 20s, 30s or 40s. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's our generation, guys. Do you know what I mean? It's important that we actually have at least an opinion on it. Even I'm not saying, you have to go and become Batman, but at least be clued up on it and be aware of what's going on, rather than just having your head buried in the sand. I'm not going to lie, I would love to actually be Batman. If only I had like a spare like 10 mil to get all the Batman kit, But I do love the idea though. I do love the whole idea of Batman though. I always think like it's funny because on the surface level, he is almost like the most dark and brooding superhero, arguably, but also in a way, if you think about it, it's almost like quite comical, the fact that like what he essentially is like his dad was like this baller businessman, and he's not really, but he just inherited like everything. So he's like, right, am I going to be like a businessman? No, I'm just going to take all of the money I've inherited. I'm going to get myself a Batmobile. I'm going to get myself all this like dope ass freaking suits and all these like weapons. And I'm just going to sleep all day and just go around all night, just freaking be like, whoosh! Like in this like mental voice, like beating up criminals and stuff like that with like this bulletproof armor on that. Like, I'm like, mate, you're a man after my own heart. Yeah, man after my own heart. That's literally like exactly.
You'd be Batman. Right. I'd be like Deadpool, like fully burnt, and just like from my own stupidity, and like,
but with two samurai swords.
Yeah,
it'd be like you'd be like that little photo of you where you're like a little kid with all the guns and the knives. That would be like that little boy's dream would be to be Deadpool, wouldn't it? 100%. 100%. But yeah, let's give some examples of stuff that have happened. This is all really recent in the West, which just goes to show almost like how mental it is. But at the same time, I feel like none of this stuff is like that talked about, especially by mainstream media. And I don't really know why. Do you know what I mean? It's almost just like don't talk about it. Let's talk about how Tommy Robinson's a racist and about how how all the flags on the lampposts are racist and how it's intimidating to people and stuff. Apart from anything else, right? Just on that note, so have you seen that people saying that it's like intimidate, like what people using the argument of why having British flags on lampposts, they said it's because it's intimidating to people that are in this country as a guest, and I think that is, to be honest, I think that's pathetic. I think if I went to like Greece or Italy and I saw like a load of Greek flags on lampposts or like a load of Italian flags on lampposts, I wouldn't be like, oh my god, this is
about their country.
Yeah, I would be like, oh my, I am feeling intimidated right now. This is really intimidating me. Do you know what I mean? Like, also, like if you actually feel, for a start, I don't actually feel like anyone feels like that. I feel like that's almost like a really reaching, almost like pathetic attempt of like a way to try and demonize, this whole movement, which ironically I think has come about because of some of the things that we've been talking about. It's like, yeah, you could argue that it is a bit extreme, but it's almost like happened in like a peacefully protesting way, as a way of us almost being taught that like, everything in society is like, British nationals' fault. It's because we're bad. It's because we're racist. It's because we're this like awful country, and don't you dare ever say anything bad against any of these like, illegal immigrants, even if they literally came to this country illegally without any documentation, even if they literally like have been like convicted of like sexual assault and stuff in the past. Don't you can't say anything about them, because if you do, the moment you do, like, you'll be demonized. And not only that, the amount of like, marches we've had on our streets for like years now with like Palestinian flags and like almost like seemingly every flag under the sun except for the actual flag of this country. And it's like, I just don't see how anybody with any common sense can argue that like, oh yeah, well it's okay to fly the Palestinian flag, and it's okay to fly like, like in some cities now, because there's such a high Pakistani population, I know that on certain times of the year they fly the Pakistani flag. Obviously whenever there's like trans rights stuff going on, they're flying trans flags and stuff. So it's like, okay, right, so it's okay to fly Palestinian flags, it's okay to fly Pakistani flags, it's okay to fly trans rights flags, and that's all like celebrated and encouraged. But the moment you actually fly the flag actually of this country, it's like, racist. You're like a far right thug, Nazi. It's like, what? It's like, no, Britain fought against the Nazis. It's not only is it like grasping at straws and like just fully reaching, but it's really hypocritical because it's like, why is it okay to fly some flags, but then not in others? And I think, don't get me wrong, I think that you could actually argue that all the British flags on the lampposts is a little bit extreme and a little bit over the top. But as I said, I think that's in protest and to counter how it's also been over the top, how all of these other flags have been like shoved down our throats for years now. For years. Yeah. You know?
For me, it's rather than it being intimidating, it's just like not accepted. Like it's showing that whoever is offended by those flags is like not accepting that it is England, or it's almost like saying that isn't what it is, and it's like, well, it is what it is. It is where we live, and it's almost like there's this. For me, it seems to be like trying to establish something new, not something that we already have. And that's not right.
But that just seems like so weird to me. Do you know what I mean? Because I haven't really thought. I haven't really thought about that.
But like we're not. But it's all. I don't know. Maybe that's not right. But that's what it feels like a bit. It's like what. When would you ever be offended by, like, it's like going into a shop and saying this shop isn't Marks and Spencer's, this is Morrison's. No. Do you know what? That is a hilarious analogy, but it's actually quite a good one. It's quite a good one.
And then when you add on to that, I mean, I think like, forgive me because I think we might have talked about this on the pod last week or the week before, but in a very simple sense as well. I just think like, if you went to like Canada, what would you expect to see? You'd expect to see Canadian flags, wouldn't you? You'd expect to see it at the airport. You'd expect to see it every time you pass. Is
it not good to be proud of like where you live, or like, or the values that you have, or the country that you built,
or even if you're not, at least, or even if you're not proud of it, because that's up to you. At least accept that this is the country that you are in, and look, like on paper at least. I know it's becoming less free by the day, but on paper at least, we're still a free enough country that if you really dislike this country that much, then find somewhere else to live. Like, think of a country that you'd rather live in and just go live there. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and don't do it like, don't be an illegal immigrant. Apply for your visa, go through the correct processes, and go and become, because that's the way I think about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, the irony is, it's like, like me and you have talked about it as well, that like we both might look into moving in the future, but it's not because we hate Britain or we hate the British flag or because we're not proud of our heritage. It's because we're worried about. It's because like we're dads and we're worried about how violent crime and sexual assaults and thefts are like literally skyrocketing. To the point where I saw
overreach of the government and
I saw something mental the other day. It was a list of I can't remember if it was the top 15 or top 30 most dangerous countries in the whole of Europe, and I think the top 3 were all in the UK. The top 3 most dangerous cities in the whole of Europe were all in the UK. Mad. Do you know what I mean? So it's like all these stats. It's like. But it's like, something's going wrong. Things like that, that's why people like me and you would look at going moving. But it's like, if you look at like a lot of like things on like Facebook and other places like that, it's almost like, oh no, it's like that whole bury your head in the sand thing. It's like, no, let's not actually address any of the actual problems. Anybody that is trying to address their problems is a racist. Is like a far right Nazi, which I think...
It's another thing...
Go on, man.
Sorry, man.
That's all right. Go on.
It just makes me think as well of like the technology and progression and stuff. It's like, we're living in all this time of change and all this progression in all these ways, but like, we are going backwards in certain ways. And
fully.
I can't compute it in my head that things could be so much better in a certain way or have so much potential, but really that's just taken us down like a darker path, and that like a lot of the time. And it's just it's a weird concept for me, like that when like, I know we spoke about this before as well, but like our nans, and when we talked to our nans and the way it was, they had less money and things, they had less technology, but the way that they lived their lives in communities and the values they had in that, even the intelligence of the way I'd listen to the way that people used to speak, and Winston Churchill, and just like even that time, the eloquence and all of that stuff. Like I feel like we're losing it like day by day with with technology as well, and and the whole AI thing that is making us dumber.
And like with what you're saying with like the whole like it's almost like the fall of diplomacy and democracy, because it's like
it's becoming more
rather than as a society being like bringing up people to be like, okay, well, if you have a disagreement, if you have a different sort of opinion of somebody, that's fine. Why don't you just talk to them about it, and then maybe you can like see each other's point of view, and even if you can't, like encourage people to have a respectful conversation and then agree to disagree. But what instead you have is people being encouraged to be like, this is right, this is wrong, you better be right, and when you encounter people that are quote unquote wrong, you have to be horrible to them. And it's like, what sort of like weird way to like live your life is that? That's just like rubbish, isn't it? I mean, listen to this. I'll bring out some stats just for people to hear. Okay, these are just like hard truths. UK now has the highest figures of rapes in Europe, surpassing Sweden, which previously had the highest rapes numbers of rapes in Europe. The UK recorded 71,221 sexual assaults last year, an 813% increase from just 7,801 in the year 2000. So in 25 years, sexual assault cases have risen 813%. Can you believe that? That's insane. Dang. That's insane, mate. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Over 8 times crazy, more sexual assaults in the UK. Let me find some more crazy stats for you guys, because there are a lot, unfortunately. There are a lot. Iris Stalzer, the mayor of Herdeck in Germany, was stabbed 13 times in the abdomen and back by her 2 adoptive kids. She'd adopted these kids as immigrants as a way to show that all that people needed was like compassion, and that they were raised normally, that they would just become, normal contributing members of society. And instead, she was stabbed 13 times in the abdomen and 2 times in the back by her adoptive children. What else have we got?
Did she die?
Do you know what? It doesn't actually say.
Did you see like a recent one with like this along the same lines like that where this woman like adopted someone, and she was 17-year-old ago, and she locked the lady in her basement and like stabbed her and stuff.
Mate,
and like
what the hell?
And did all this stuff, and then let her out, and then rang the police and everything, and they didn't charge the girl. Like they didn't hold the girl, and like they're not charging her on attempted murder. It was more like a lower charge.
What the hell?
And, like I remember like seeing that the other day and thinking like, that's savage. Like a similar thing, like she'd adopted her and everything, and
mate, that's insane.
Yeah, that was a teacher.
Mate, that is absolutely insane, Drew. But yeah, it's just like, it's almost like it's weird that almost I think it's becoming, and this is yet again, it comes back to the word apathy. It's almost like we're becoming so conditioned to all of these things. I feel like in a way, because there's just so many examples of them, they're almost like
normalized.
Yeah, it's becoming normalized, and these things should not be normalized. Listen to this one.
No.
This was really recent. An Afghan caregiver raped an 82-year-old woman with dementia in her own apartment in Vienna. The victim's son was forced to helplessly watch the rape in real time on his smartphone after he installed a surveillance camera in his mother's apartment due to suspicions he had about the carer. The perpetrator, 26-year-old Sarafaz Z, confessed to the crime after his arrest on the same day of the incident. The family says that since the incident, their mother is constantly talking about suicide and has lost the will to live. This was an 82-year-old woman, This is an 82-year-old woman with dementia. Like people that we should be looking after and caring for in our society. And instead, they're fucking getting raped by nutters. By fucking nutters. By literally, like, what do you even call people that would even consider raping an 82-year-old woman with dementia?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? It's like literally monsters. Sick. Like literally monsters.
Yeah. And I think as well, what you said about, things becoming normalized, like that's a really, 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 really dangerous thing, because, you think about in history how things were. I think as a human race and as humans, like we can normalize things. We can normalize like savage things, like even talking to like nurses and doctors, like you need to, or people in the army and stuff.
Yeah, you need to be tough.
Yeah, you need to be able to normalize like killing in that, which is like a horrendous thing. And also in an ER room, like you need to normalize like savage legs everywhere and brutal like accidents that people have had in order to help those people. Like it's something in our brain. If something becomes culturally normalized as well, we accept it. And you think of like other cultures where it's normal for like, is it in Pakistan or something? They have those like the little boys that dance for the older men. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Like
I think that is in
and
Pakistan.
they
Yeah,
do all this. I've seen
because
videos
women
of,
aren't
like,
allowed to dance provocatively in public, so instead they get
all these
like
little
teenage
men,
boys to
little
do it.
boy,
Mate,
yeah,
it's
and then
messed
the
up,
men
messed
go
up.
and do all this horrible stuff with the boys.
You can
But
watch
that's
videos
normal
about it,
for their
can't you?
culture,
It's mental.
it's become, and because it's become like a part of their culture, it's normalized, and they think it's normal. It's like our brains are messed up. Like we can do that. So if it happens too much,
Yeah.
then it, like you say, it will just become the norm, and then it will be accepted. But it's very wrong,
Yeah, and I think it's like and obviously I think one of my worries is that it has become so normalized. Do you know what I mean? And I also think, although I very much agree with what you said, I think that say like, special forces soldiers, surgeons, etc., people that do have to deal with like a lot of blood, the potential for death at any moment. I feel like they can still differentiate obviously between when that is acceptable and when it's not. Do you know what I mean? It's like, as I said, you know what I mean? Like my great uncle Bill fought at D-Day. He was a Royal Marine. He, after the war, he served in the military. He had a whole entire military career. So right up until when he retired as an old man, he was like an unarmed combat instructor at Sandhurst for years. Went over to like Japan and Australia and all sorts of places. But like, just because he was like, had like killed loads of Germans in the war and had done all this other stuff and was like a trained killer in a lot of ways. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't just like, he lived in York. He wasn't just like walking around York just like killing people because it was normal to him. Do you know what I mean? Like there was still that difference between knowing when it's acceptable and when it's not. So even if you're conditioned to do something that would seem crazy to the average person, you still have the wherewithal to know when things are acceptable and when it's not.
Oh yeah.
Which is, I think, yet again another issue we have at the moment. It's like a lot of people that are walking the streets at the moment don't seem to know what is and what isn't acceptable, and then they are doing things which aren't acceptable, and then and then because there's just so many cases of that's leading to the normalization of it.
Oh, and you don't think that's acceptable? Oh, that's okay then.
Yeah, it's really good. It's almost like, well, to them it might have been acceptable.
That's a good enough excuse. Your culture's different, or like you don't know that that's not acceptable.
Yeah,
that's not your fault. Well, it is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, man, exactly. Let me try and find some. I mean, recently. So did you know that Oktoberfest on the 1st of October had to be in Munich, had to be cancelled due to a terror threat? So this is all across Europe and the UK now. It's just like, it's almost like weekly occurrences. If people aren't getting raped, there's terror threats, or they're getting stabbed. So yeah, Munich's Oktoberfest was temporarily closed for several hours on Wednesday, 1st of October, after city officials announced a suspension due to a verified bomb threat against the festival. The threat was retrieved from a letter belonging to a suspect involved in a deadly explosion and a house fire across town. It's like, mate, Oktoberfest, it's just a bunch of freaking people just wanted to go and have a Stein and like a pretzel. Do you know what I mean? It's like the most benign, innocent thing ever. Like just like a little celebration of just pure joy. Just go out with your mates or your family or whatever, have a couple of beers, eat a pretzel or whatever, go home. And it's like, can't do that nowadays without being worried about being freaking... Yeah, can't go out for a bratwurst and a beer without fear of being freaking bombed nowadays. It's like, it's insane. It's insane. I say I've got plenty more of examples, unfortunately, as well for you. So let me try and get some of these more. Belgium. In Belgium, they just arrested 3 terrorists plotting a drone attack on the Belgian Prime Minister. Yeah, 3 Islamic terrorists arrested in Belgium for preparing terror attacks. Prime Minister Bart de Wever was one of the main targets in what was to be a drone attack. Yeah, and I think, a lot of these are ones that are being like intercepted and actually being dealt with. What about the ones that, that aren't?
Yeah, I wonder like how I said that. I can't remember who I said it to the other day, but like thinking about all of the things that have actually been stopped that we don't even know about within intelligence and like behind closed doors, like what is actually happening to like protect us from big threats and stuff,
Well, I think this is the thing as well. I think like, growing up, we always thought that like, because we did have such objective right and wrong in this country, and it was like, obviously if somebody was murdered or freaking raped, it would be like such a massive nationwide thing. It would be all over the news that person would be like instantly taken care of and like put behind, locked bars for the rest of their life. But like now it's almost like, I think that's like, you just sort of feel like, say if you were killed or something, you would just almost be like swept under the carpet. It would just be like another statistic, but it would almost be like, shh, don't talk about the person that killed Drew or Calum, because we don't want to be seen as being like, offensive to anybody or rapist or like racist. Also, don't you think, also just in a slightly comical way, it's almost like such a hilarious byproduct of British nature, of like, how like British people almost like, we don't really want to be rude or step on anyone's toes. Yeah. So it's almost like one hilarious quality of like British nature is like, we don't want to be rude to people, but at the same time, so it's like, but it's like almost like to such a ridiculous extreme. It's like, oh, someone's being murdered again, someone's been raped again. Oh well, we better not kick up a fuss. We better not be rude about it. So let's just I'm sure everything will be fine. I'm sure everything will be fine. Yeah. It's like it's not fine to the people that have been murdered or raped, is it? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's almost like comical, but for all the wrong reasons,
Yeah. You would expect the leaders or the people that are representing your country to actually like care about that as much as you and your community do. Of the people that surround you and British values and all that stuff. Like you walk around town and just how friendly people are, how polite we are, like that kind of stuff. Like that's what makes us that's what makes us British, and that's a good quality to have. It's just it creates a safe environment. It's just a nice vibe.
It is a nice vibe, but we have to have like the social awareness of knowing when that can be to our own detriment. So it's like, of course we should be polite, of course we should be forgiving, of course we should be understanding and sympathetic, and try and put ourselves in other people's shoes. But if we're doing that to the point where like you're putting yourself and people around you at the risk of like theft, home invasion, sexual assault, even like murder, then it's like that's literally like to a level of insanity that needs to be addressed, isn't it?
Yeah, because it feels like when there's with being like that, when it's a healthy way, as in you walk around and you're really polite and stuff like that. If you see something happen that's out of order, you like kind of like step up and like no.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another part of Britishness, which is like you won't take any crap for like
definitely
if you see wrong being done, and
I think
that's the positive. It's like almost that's dropped, and it's more about like I do think that you can be polite and you can also have
a line
if you see bad happening. You know what I mean? Like
there always has to be a line, doesn't there? There always has to be a line.
Yeah.
There always has to be a line. I think in society that it's like this is the line, don't cross the line. It's a bit like, you see it all the time. I mean, you can see it in like little social situations, which is where like someone is just, even if they don't mean to be, someone is crossing the line and they almost just have to be like checked. Yeah. They need to check. Do you know what I mean? And it's almost like, and I think,
social check.
And I think that most people would see that as fine. It reminds me of when, like 5 or 6 years ago, whenever it was, we were in the cobblestones and there was that guy and he was like obviously a bit drunk and he just kept like, and I don't think he was deliberately doing it, but he just kept like vaping in Nicky C's face. But he was like stood like not even like a foot away from Nicky C's face, and he kept like blowing out entire vapes in his face. And Nicky C is like obviously a really polite guy. I was like, man, can you not do that? And he's like, yeah, sorry. And then he did it again, and and I could see Nicky C getting more and more wound up, and it was annoying me watching it. I was thinking like I was getting like annoyed for Nicky C watching it. I was thinking, mate, that must be like so triggering. I'd be like getting so annoyed if that was me. And then I remember he just looked at me almost like real seriously and went, "If I kick off now, have you got my back?" And I just went, "Yeah." and then Nicky C just went like, "Mate, I've just asked you like 5 times politely not to like vape in my face, and you keep effing vaping in my face. Can you just like back the hell off and either just like stand further away from me or actually just not frickin' vape in my face? It's like not frickin' funny anymore. It's really disrespectful. It's winding me up." And then obviously the guy did the whole like, "Oh, sorry, mate. Oh, what, man? Oh, what? Oh, no, man. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like." And it's like, what do you expect, you muppet?
Have some awareness.
Yeah, what do you expect, you muppet? Like, the line was here. You crossed the line. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's not even like they were like really close close friends or anything. Do you know what I mean? Like barely knew each other. He was just like some drunk guy at the pub that was just chatting to him. And do you know what I mean? Even if like on paper he was being sound, because I think it might have started because he was like saying that he liked Death by Kai or something. But it's like, it's not the point. Do you know what I mean? It's like the line's here. Don't cross the line. There's certain things you do to people and certain ways of like to act to people. Don't blow smoke in their face. Don't blow freaking vape in their face. You know, don't be like, you know what I mean? It's like, don't say comments to people that could be seen as disrespectful to them or the people around them and that. And if you do, then you expect to be checked, you know, or like expect to be challenged on that, you know? You know, it's like contrived it sounds super cheesy and contrived in a way, but like really, you know, it's like, try and treat people like you want to be treated, you know, like, because, you know, it's just, this is another awful case, and you could be forgiven for thinking that I'm actually just repeating the one I said a minute ago, but this is a different case. This one's in France. I believe the other one I just mentioned was in Vienna. This is a 20-year-old asylum seeker was arrested for raping an 80-year-old woman to death in Niort, France. The victim succumbed to her injuries after the sexual assault. The rapist followed the woman home after she'd been visiting her 100-year-old mother in a retirement home where the asylum seeker had been working as a caregiver. Also, why are all these freaking rapists getting like hired as like caregivers? Do you know what I mean? Like, what about background checks? What happened to background checks, people? What happened to background checks?
Would there even be any background like information from? Like,
yeah, but I mean, look, when it comes to like retirement homes and like dementia homes and stuff like that, like mental health, there freaking should be, because these are old age pensioners that can't defend themselves after like babies and toddlers. They're the most defenseless people in society.
Yeah,
I mean,
vulnerable,
me and you have got grandparents that are still alive, thankfully. We've also unfortunately got a couple that have passed away, but we know how fragile and how vulnerable they are. You know, I mean, you know, my two grandmothers are very fragile. You know, like they're always one fall away from a hospital trip. You know,
a broken hip.
Yeah. You know, like daily life is not like daily life is for us. You know, we can do what we want, really. You know, to them, there's everything has to be taken into account, and you know, because their bodies aren't playing ball with them the way they used to. So, as I said, after babies and toddlers, they're the most at-risk members of society. Not just that, but they are, you know, for the most part in the West, if you are like an old age person in a home or something, you've lived your life most likely working in your life, paying your taxes, contributing to society, and, you know, bringing up families yourself. And then what kind of reward for it is it to be stuck in a home by with and the people that are looking after you are people that 30, 40, 50-year-olds you know, are giving you carers that may or may not be freaking rapists, like brutal rapists, like in this case, raped a woman to death. How do you even rape somebody to death? Do you know what I mean? I don't know what other people are doing in the bedroom, but you know, but yeah, just brutal. But I'm brutal. I mean, brutal. Oh, mate, edit. Brutal, mate. Can't make it up, can you? But yeah, crazy. That is just brutal, isn't it? Yeah. Also, some. These are some of the signs that have been photographed in London recently. Do want to apologise for that little like mess up a minute ago, because obviously these are very, very serious subjects. We're laughing at me, not at the subject.
Oh yeah.
But oh yeah, we're laughing at you. Don't worry. But like, yeah, these are all signs that have been photographed in London recently. And this is crazy. Can you believe that? You know, these are actual signs that people have just been walking around the capital city of Britain with. One of them says, behead those who insult Islam. Another one says, slay those who insult Islam. Butcher the defilers. Kill all Jews. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, can you? You know?
There's actually been people with those signs.
Mate, these are all photographed signs in London. You can look it up.
Oh my God.
Every day, people arrive in Europe without any visa or permission. You know, a lot of the time, the reason why they don't have any documents or any visas or anything, it's not even because they don't have them, it's because they know that if they had them, the background checks that would then be done on them would show that they were parts of terrorist groups or previously had murders and rapes charges against them. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's just insane, isn't it? I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing at this point? You know? And as I said, and the thing is as well, is actually having, this is the thing, this is the crazy thing as well, because I know that a lot of, say, there's a certain population, a certain percentage of the population that would listen to what we're talking about, and they would be like, I can't believe Calum and Drew are talking about this. They're so like racist and awful for talking about this, right? But the thing is, to anybody that would say that, like, not only are these things that we're talking about inherently awful, and that it is objectively bad, and it is happening, for like not at 99% of cases, it is happening from people like illegal immigrants. So that's just objectively true. That's not like racist or anything or bad to say that. That's just a fact. Do you know what I mean? So not only is that just something that we all need to sort of like wake up and realize, but also by allowing these things to happen, you're justifying actual real racists and far right extremists. Do you know what I mean? People that are like racist on the other side. People that do actually say just dislike somebody because their skin color is brown, or dislike somebody because their skin color is black, or because their skin color is insert whatever, or dislike somebody because they're from this country. All right, you're actually giving more fuel for people like that. And how can you not see that's the case? And as a result, we are seeing in some countries now, they are implementing things to almost like, to more extreme things to try and stop things like that from happening. Sweden's prime minister has just is now seeking to ban the burqa and the hijab in public places in Sweden. Like, if we didn't have all the issues that we had, she wouldn't be trying to do that. But so it's almost like it's like a catch-22, and it's like, by allowing this extremism and by us being like apathetic to all of these awful things that are happening, as we said in Britain, since the year 2000 when we were 10 years old, Drew, rape cases have gone up 815%. That's insane. Not long until it's going to be 10 times the amount. That's insane. That should never have even been allowed to get this far. When it went up twice as much, it should have been, right, what the hell's going on here? This is like a nationwide crackdown, like right now. What are we paying our taxpayers money for? We all pay our freaking arm and a leg in tax. Is it that hard to put the money into the police force to actually like stop people from freaking raping people? On paper, it doesn't really sound that freaking hard, does it? But then, you have people like my Uncle Dom that we've had on the pod, 25 years in the force, and he said that, he left because almost like of how hard it was to be a copper in this day and age, because, it's like you're almost like demonized for being a good copper. Everything's about ticking boxes and about not being offensive, and, you're not allowed to, it's almost like if you like arrest a violent criminal, you as the copper could then get done if like you're perceived as being like too rough with like the person that you arrested that was just assaulting somebody in the street. It's like, what? No, you're like neutralizing the threat, and it's like,
I remember something coming up on Facebook. It's like, have you been mistreated by a police officer? Call this number. We specialize in claims against like that. So it's actually like encouraged as well, like in adverts on social medias and stuff. Like,
yeah. And the thing is, it's like, it's not even like saying like I've had. I mean, I've only ever had like like some negative interactions with the police. I've only ever had like a couple, to be fair. One of them was super minor, but so it's not even saying that like, of course there are some bad coppers, the same way that there are some bad teachers and there are bad doctors. There's bad people in every profession in the world. It's not saying that's not the case, but it's very, very hard to expect good police officers to be able to do their job well when their job is to, in some cases, apprehend violent criminals, rapists, people that have just been assaulting people, maybe even trying to like kill people in some cases. And then how would you like physically neutralize somebody like that without hurting them in some way? Do you know what I mean? It's like you can't make an omelette. You can't make an omelette without breaking some eggs, mate. Can you?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's a good analogy for it. You know what I mean? It's like, if someone's being violent, it's very hard not to be violent to them, to neutralise them. Like, obviously, there's correct ways to do things, and they're all taught that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as I said, like, I'm real close to my uncle, so I know that he had to go on all these training courses, and there's ways to restrain people and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if someone's, like, writhing literally like a fish out of water, and they're, like, a fully grown adult,
And
you're going to have to... you're going to have to use quite a lot of force to restrain that person, because they're using a lot of force to resist. So you're going to have to use even more force than they're exerting to arrest them. And as a result, yeah, they might end up with some bruises and some cuts and some scrapes and stuff. But it's like, mate, like, do you know what I mean? It's just crazy, man. You know, it's like, it's always like, it's this thing, isn't it? It's like shifting the emphasis on making everyone to be a victim rather than, you know?
Yeah, and this the thing with the racism thing as well, like, it's really dangerous, like, to that you know, you can be against values, or you can be against abhorrent acts, and you could and that's being labeled as you're racist. Like, that's not you. It's like valuism, or you know, I mean, it's not racism. It's just there's certain things that are, like, I feel are objectively wrong.
Yeah.
And why should you be afraid to say that? Like, why should you be told that you're a bad person for thinking that? You know?
Well, it's kind of like bullying, isn't it?
We're not talking about how someone is, or what they believe in, or anything like that. It's like, or like what religion they have, or like what your connection with God is. It's like, do you believe that that's right to be able to do that to a woman or something? Is that normal to you? Like, for me, that's just like, no. And that I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't understand it. It's being labelled as racist, but it's not. It's just you're against a certain value. And how is it? That's nothing to do with skin. That's to do with kind of person that person is. You know, like, and that could be anyone. If anyone comes to me and they've got they live in that way, if they're white, anything, like, I would be against that. So. Does that mean that means I'm racist against that value? But that's not racism. That's do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
yeah, no, definitely. And I also think it's like similar to what I was saying a little bit a minute ago about how, because the extremism on one side is becoming more accepted, as a result, almost like because it's the only way of combating that, we're having to see more extreme things implemented, like banning of certain dress codes and things like that, to make people feel safe. And it's almost like similar to that in terms of it's like, in terms of like normalization. Like the word racist is thrown around so much nowadays that it's just sort of like lost. It's like lost its meaning. You know, because it's like back in the day. You know, I feel like, you know, you actually had to be guilty of like certain criteria to be called a racist. You know, so like, you know, of course you are racist if you think that one, say, skin color is inherently better than another skin color purely because of the skin color. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, like if you're a white person and you think you're better than black people because you're black and they're white, then of course that is racist. If you think that like Jews should be killed just because they're Jews, then yeah, of course you're racist. But like,
you now say like Islamophobic, if you're
saying like, yeah,
you're racist.
I'm concerned about the fact that there's like that illegal immigration is like skyrocketing. Not only is it a massive burden and strain on our infrastructure across the board, but actually like rape cases and assaults are like through the frickin' roof, and this is concerning to me. That is not a reason to be called a racist. that's like, to call someone a racist because they're concerned about that is mad. And it's like, to be honest, mate, not to, just to use like a trendy term that all the youngsters like to use nowadays. That's gaslighting. That's full on gaslighting, isn't it?
And this Islamophobic thing as well, I don't understand it, because like a phobia is being scared of something, and with certain things that like Islam represents in its countries, and the way that they treat other members of their society and people, and that, I am scared of that. So it's like so that's Islamophobic, but I'm not seeing that as like a massive negative racist thing. That's just saying there's certain things about that like, you know, that that scares me, because imagine if you did live in that world. Imagine if your wife lived in that world. Imagine if your daughter lived in that world. That is scary, you know. So is that Islamophobic? Is that? But that doesn't mean I'm a racist. That just means I'm scared of like the way.
And also,
that,
let's remember as well that let's also remember as well that
like,
say we're using the example of Islam. And by the way, we're not saying obviously that every single illegal immigrant is necessarily an Islamist. Like, if we're being honest, a lot of them are. But I just wanted to caveat that. And also, you know, one of my good friends is a British Pakistani from like an Islamist background. So it's like, again, it's not like me and Drew are saying that we wouldn't be friends with people from a certain background or anything. But it's about addressing the reality of the situation, isn't it? It's about addressing the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation is that there are a lot of Muslims in the UK and in other Western countries. I've seen clips of people Muslims in Canada doing it, lots of countries, openly saying that they want to, that if they could, they would implement Sharia law in this country, like today. And not only that, but they're almost like in quite a sinister way. They're saying that they actually think that one day it's going to happen. Give us like 30 years, because they're all having like 6 to 10 kids each. We're only having like 0 to 2 kids each per household on average. You know, when I say like, you know, like say like traditional, you know, like British people. So it's like, you know, the idea is as soon as they outnumber us, as soon as it becomes they're the 51% of the population, we're the 49% of the population, they're just going to implement Sharia law. Well, it's like, I'd say this isn't.
I am scared of that.
Yeah,
That means I'm
me too. And this isn't a conspiracy theory. You guys go look it up for yourselves. This isn't a conspiracy theory. There are a lot of people openly saying this, and it's like, let's look at what Sharia law is. And the thing is as well, I think that people need to understand as well. Like, me and Drew are really concerned about Sharia law, and I can only speak for myself. One of the main reasons I'm concerned about it is more for people like my daughter and my wife and my mum than it is for myself. Because let's face it, even though I outright wouldn't want to live in a country that had Sharia law, I would be the least affected, because I'm like a heterosexual male. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Love loads of wives. I'm like a heterosexual male, so it's like I would be seen pretty much as all right. I'd be like our husband and a father. I would be deemed as the one. It's because
of the values we have and the relationships we have with women. Yeah. That it's like you don't want something like. Yeah. You don't want life to be like that for them.
Yeah, and as I said, like in you know, those Sharia law countries, like it's more like like the fathers and the husbands and that are the ones that are given by far the most respect. So our lives, at least for the most part, would remain unchanged, you know. It would be what would be awful would be that any of our female family members wouldn't be able to have an education. They wouldn't be able to play sport. They wouldn't be able to drive cars. Yeah. And it's like this is fundamentally wrong. You know, that's
the values that belief system like kind of lives by. So,
to say that's a civil rights issue is obviously a massive understatement. Do you know what I mean? That's like beyond the civil right. And also, I don't get it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you look at like the suffragettes movement and all like the women and the men that have like fought for like female equality, you know, over the decades and I guess you could say even over like the hundreds of years and stuff like that. And it's like all of that would just be undone in, you know, like in a relatively short amount of time. You know, I remember before we were talking on the pod about that really cool woman who was like, about like back in the day, was it like in America like 50, 60 years ago or something, like women weren't allowed to run marathons, and then she just did it. And there were some people even like trying to stop her, and she just like was like no, and she was the first ever woman to run a marathon. And I hear that and I think, mate, that's freaking cool. I think like good, that's freaking dope, like good on her. And also I think like, why shouldn't women be able to freaking like run a marathon? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's so weird. Like, why would you not allow a woman to run a marathon, you know? And it's like, why would you not allow a woman to do anything that a man can do? And it's like, you know, and it's like we've said on the pod, you know, because I think life should all be about equality of opportunity, you know, not equality of outcome, but equality of opportunity, because that is the fairest way for any society to function. You know, the idea that like everybody has the same playing field, regardless of what sex you are, regardless of what you know, what color your skin is, what nationality you're from, and then everybody has an even playing field, and then let the cream rise to the top. You know, you know, like
and it's mad to think that to some people that is extremely offensive.
How could I don't even understand how that could be.
But
That is like fairness in its purest form. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's like fairness in its purest form. It's like, everything is a level playing field. Everyone has the same opportunities, and then after that, it's like who's got the most natural talent for the job, who's willing to put in the most work for the job. Whoever has those things gets the job. And is
that going to create a dangerous society? Like, no, that's going to create a fair society.
A flourishing society.
There's some other beliefs out there that will just create a much more dangerous society for everyone and for like the people and for members of society. And like, yes, there's certain like views that you can have. There's certain ways you can live that can create something that's not fair and that's not like all those things you said,
Yeah, man. And I think just because we're talking about sort of like jobs and stuff at the moment a little bit and about like fairness, I think another thing, because we talked about gaslighting a minute ago, I think we're sort of like gaslit into, and let's face it, and I don't either, by the way. I'm so not naturally a businessman. I know like I know the bare minimum of like economics and stuff like that, but I do know enough to know about the differences between, say, capitalism and communism, and how our economy works. Okay, I know the basics of how economy works, so I'll explain what I mean by that. So a lot of us are gaslit that we need all of these immigrants, even illegal immigrants in our country, to do the jobs, because if we didn't have them doing the jobs, we would all suffer. And that is an outright lie. And I'll explain to you very simply why that is a lie, for people that don't really understand why that's a lie. So the way that our market works in the UK, obviously we're a capitalist society, the way our market works is if a demand for a certain sector goes up, what happens is people become more willing then to pay for that job, right? So let's use a plumber as an example. Say 10 people want to get a plumber, right? Well, if you're in a society where there's 10 plumbers or 20 plumbers per those 10 people that need plumbing jobs done, you're going to have 10 plumbers don't have jobs that week. And then the other 10, because there's so many plumbers around, the person that's paying for the job gets to dictate by and large how much they're paying for the job, because you could just say to the plumber, okay, well, you're charging too much, so I'm going to go to this other person, right? What you happen in a market which is always fluctuating, which is what we've had traditionally in Britain, in like a free market economy, is if there is a demand if there's only one plumber per 10 people, then everybody wants that plumber. As a result, he can start putting his prices up, right? And then that might be frustrating in the short term to the customer. But then what people start doing is you get people coming out of school and they're going, God, mate, there seems to be a shortage of plumbers at the moment, and plumbers are making a freaking mint. I've never really been that good with words and that. I'm never going to be an accountant. I don't want to join the military. I don't want to be a police officer, whatever. And I'm not literate enough to be a doctor, but I could make a freaking killing being a plumber. And I essentially just have to do adult Lego for the rest of my life. Boom, And it's like, do you know what I mean? And then naturally, the market starts creeping up and you get more plumbers into the market, and then it starts evening out again. Do you know what I mean? So then because it starts evening out again, then people might become less plumbers. And so it's like, it's always fluctuating. So the idea that flooding our economy with all of these just people that are just willing to work for like hardly anything or whatever, or like, but for like wages that we necessarily wouldn't want to work because they come from countries where they would accept working for less. That is not of any benefit to us. Do you know what I mean? That really just isn't of any benefit to us. So like, I hope. Yeah, man. I mean, I think that makes sense. Like, to me, that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? And as I said, guys, I'm not naturally a businessman. I say, a couple of people in my family are. I didn't inherit that gene. But to me, it's not rocket science to understand that concept. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like if you explain that to somebody, you should be able to see the logic in that. There might be, and I'm not necessarily even saying this is the case, but just to play full devil's advocate to myself, there might be some examples of some very specific job types where that might not be the case. I'm just playing devil's advocate to myself because maybe there isn't. So I'm open to the idea that somebody could put forth an argument that, I understand what you're saying about the plumbers, but it might be beneficial in some sector. I'm struggling to think of a single one that I actually think it would be. Do you know what I mean? But Because even for people that say that stack shelves and stuff, that still needs to be a demand for that. Because for the people that do just want to stack the shelves, they need to be appreciated, and they still need to have a decent wage. Well, if there's just like millions and millions and millions of people on the sidelines that are always willing to work in Argos factories, well, Argos warehouses, they're never going to get a good wage, are they? It's always just going to be bare, minimum wage every day, 10 hours a day for the rest of your life. Freaking depressing, So, yeah, I hope that makes sense anyway.
Yeah, man, made sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. And it's like, I think I think it's like, and the thing, it's not just us guys as well that have these concerns. So many people have these concerns. I even saw, and it's funny because obviously he doesn't live in this country, so he doesn't really have like a dog in the race. But I even saw Joe Rogan comment the other day, and he was saying like, if he didn't know any better, he would actually think that there was like some sort of like malevolent plan in place to like destroy the UK from within. Did you see that?
I've seen it. I've seen loads of clips of him recently talking about like digital ID and that, and like just giving examples and stuff of like how crazy it's getting in the UK. And he loves quoting the 12,800 people that have been arrested for tweets and stuff like this year, like the highest in all of Europe. More than Russia and China. Basically, it's censorship. Yeah. And saying that it's a dark road we're going down.
Mate, sometimes I worry about what some of the things we talk about on the pod. I'm like, am I going to get like a knock on the door one night and it's just going to be like the coppers like arresting us?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Are we going to be watched now because of our opinions?
Yeah. Are we going to be like, right, you've offended somebody online, so you need to come with us down to the station. And I don't think that like anything that we've said is a completely like out of order. And we've never ever at one point ever said that like people need to like rise up in some sort of like physical action or anything. Do you know what I mean? We've never said that, like never would. All we're saying, is for people, that are a similar age to us in their mid-30s to at least just like become educated on these facts. Like don't bury your head in the sand. Don't be overly apathetic. Listen to these, great quotes from people wiser than us in history. Like, what is it? All that evil it takes for evil to win is for good men to do nothing. As I said, when the figures and the stats don't lie. If like if since like the year 2000, since me and Drew were 10 years old, rape cases are up 812%. That is a shocking statistic. A couple of weeks ago, we read out loads of other statistics about, assaults and thefts. All of like the major crimes that could be committed are through the roof. To the point where nowadays, like a lot of crimes aren't even being addressed because the police are almost like openly like, sorry, I haven't got the time to do anything about that. Yet at the same time, they have got the time to go to people's houses and arrest them for like social media posts. Is like, that's wrong. That's wrong.
Yeah. That's the scariest thing about living in the UK, man. It's just is that like I love so like the nature, absolutely everything. I love people, but this stuff that's happening, it's like it's making it scary to actually think this is where we live, where all this is happening. It blows my mind. I still can't. Growing up, and just everything. You don't think that stuff like this is going on, but it seems to be so much more prevalent now, and yeah, super sketchy because what you say about like just go up and move to another country, but like that's a big thing as well. Like to actually do that and move your whole life and to think, oh, where could that be, and understand the values, because I would want to understand the values of where I'm going and like the culture and all that kind of stuff. It's like it's a massive thing. I love my home. I love the UK. I love I love the green glass of home. You know,
me too,
like
man,
and it's like a shame that it's even that it has to be a thought of like, but if you just let it happen to you, then it's just going to happen. But it's it's until you, like you say, become educated about it or just know what kind of opinion you have about it, then you've got a chance maybe to change it or to just like like not comply with certain things if you don't like the way it's going. Like that gets me to think that something could just be implemented like a law or something, and it's mandatory, so you have to do it. It's like, well, where's my where's like my right as a human then and stuff, that's where it kind of gets me. And we kind of saw it in COVID with not being able to go outside and stuff like that. That really triggers things in your mind of like, what do you really stand for, like what's right and wrong and stuff. And it just seems quite authoritarian to be like, this is being implemented, you nothing you can do about it, like there you go. That's not the way, that's not British, that's
no, it's not.
Or autonomous.
yeah, you want to have your autonomy. Yeah, it's like fully authoritarian. And I think, it's like with the digital ID, there's like so many fears about it at the moment. And I'm not sure, how much of it is, like when I say not
been trumped up over the top.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because
over-exaggerated.
But even with that, I don't think that would be because people are deliberately trying to mislead others. I think it's just like concerns like, well, this could lead to this. But it's like,
and it's what it could lead to. Not exactly initially, but like 10 years down the line, what does it look like? Because once freedoms have been given up, they very rarely get given back. And it's like so once it's gone, it's gone. We're at the moment, we're kind of at a certain level, but once that's gone, it's it'd be hard to get back to that place again. I mean, I've heard
I've heard some people say like, if we had like digital IDs, you could get like fined for something, and then the money would just be instantly taken out of your account.
And that's the thing. It's like it's something where it's all centralized and it's all together and it all speaks to each other and that. That sounds cool. It sounds like that's a cool thing to be able to do. It's like the way that your brain works with your body, But to give the brain and the body and like the way that our body works, something outside of our body to have control of that, or to have control of our lives, or to be able to have that. It's giving up your autonomy as a human being almost, and like and that sounds like over the top, but it could lead to that. And just look at an example of somewhere else in the world where it's happened. In China, you've got the digital yuan, and you've got the social credit system and everything, and it already happens there. They can stop you going in certain shops and buying certain things. Like that could happen in the UK. And just because that could happen, and that's a really bad thing, or a potentially really bad thing, we should have some say in it, not just like this is happening. Oh yeah. And I remember the response, I read the government response from the petition, and it's like the first sentence was, "We are implementing digital ID." So it's like that almost says it. We don't care that there's been this 2.8 million petition. Straight, it doesn't matter if you have a petition. It doesn't matter if you don't agree with this. This is what we've decided to do. Like, okay, is that a democracy? Like, that's just like a weird part about it. But then, and it also said in it, just highlights of what worried me. It's like, it won't be like mandatory to have to carry. There won't be a stop and search or something like the police could stop you and say, "Where's your digital ID?" and then you'll get arrested if you don't have one. That can't happen. But some things it will be mandatory to have one. So like getting a job. And also getting a bank account. Okay, so you don't want digital ID. You don't want to comply with that. That just means you don't have a bank account. You can't have a job. That just like switches you off from society. It just, do you know what I mean? It's like that you would have to comply. No matter how much you disagree with it. You literally just have to do it to live your life still.
It could affect us in so many sectors. I've even heard like some petrol heads and that saying it's like the death of motoring, because it could lead to like implementing like carbon credits and stuff like that. And if you drive like a petrol or a diesel car, it could be like, well, you haven't got enough carbon credits to be able to drive your car now for the rest of the year. And it's like, oh right, so what? I just can't drive. Well, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like
you've gone on holiday more than twice, so like you can't get any more plane flights because you carbon.
Yeah, it's just like it's almost just like the death of freedom, isn't it? It's like the death of freedom. Like I don't want to live in this like I feel like it's like constricting, horrible, constricting thing where it's just like, and I don't want to feel like that. I want to be like, you know what I mean? Like I want to be free. I don't want to go
out for a walk in nature in the UK with all these nice people like wandering about and that. I go, I don't want that to change.
Yeah, and also the thing is like, say with like the carbon credits things, it's not for just reasons. I mean, I think we talked about it on the pod before about how if like the UK literally like sank into the ocean like Atlantis today, we are responsible for like such a tiny minute percentage of the world's like carbon that like it literally wouldn't matter if we were like if you clicked your fingers, if you were a god and you clicked your fingers and the entire of the UK just disappeared overnight and there was just water in the place of the whole UK. Like it wouldn't actually affect
negligible.
Yeah, it like wouldn't even affect the UK. Sorry, it wouldn't affect the world in any way in regards to the carbon footprint of the earth.
Dude, that do you remember that Greg Braden thing on Joe Rogan I said about like that guy?
Yeah.
That guy, mate, he talks on there a lot about the like global warming and like the carbon stuff, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, I still need to watch that.
Another scientific, man, for like another scientific perspective on it, and looking at like the temperature changes through the ages, the way that the earth actually like generates carbon and deals with it and everything. It's really interesting. I can't even say it, but I'd butcher it. But it's like it gives you a different perspective that almost makes you think, is it like an agenda or something that it's being pushed on us to like, you know, this idea that of how much that we're contributing to the global warming and stuff like that could actually.
Oh, what's happened? He's gone quiet, everyone. He's gone quiet. Right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Because Drew's having some technical difficulties a minute. I'm going to play a track and be back very shortly. You'll listen to PB. No, I can hear you, man. Drew's back, everyone. That was Mystic Rhythms by Rush. We had some technical difficulties, but Drew's back with us again now. Sorry, man, you were saying, because you were mid-rant.
Sorry about that.
That's all right, mate. Can't be up to this.
Yeah, I was mid-rant. Can't 100% remember.
Just before you say, just because I was gonna. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, because obviously in regards to what led you on to that like, yeah, if you say we're told that you could, you know, with like say the carbon credits thing, if we had the digital ID, and as a result you couldn't drive your car if you had like a petrol or a diesel car, like. That's not for any just cause. That is just purely authoritarian. That's purely just having control over your life. Because as I said, that's why I brought up that obviously if the UK disappeared. So you were saying, man.
And that made me think of what Greg Braden was saying, and he was talking about like the science behind like global warming and things like that, and the way that the Earth like handles the carbon and everything, and how green that it's actually much greener now than it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Our things again, this kind of thing, and he was also saying that I've just lost it.
While you're thinking, just on that, just because it's on the same subject. I remember hearing, you know, there are way more trees now. I can't remember how many more, but there's loads more trees now than there was, say, at the end of the Second World War. And also, obviously, to an extent, like carbon is actually good. I know that it's been demonized so bad, but like all plant life breathes carbon in. So, and the more plant life there is, the more they're breathing out oxygen. Do you know what I mean? So it's like.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's a bit like a free market economy.
Yeah. And also he talked about the actual the goals, the carbon goals of like of the world, of some of these organizations and that are saying this is where we want to be by this time. And the crux of it was that if we actually reach those goals, it would be negative for the Earth rather than positive. It'd be negative for humanity rather than positive. Like they're trying to push something that's actually going to be worse for us rather than be better, but it's sold as being better, as in like we're saving the world. It's like, no, it'd actually be like worse. And yeah, it's really interesting. I definitely recommend watching.
Yeah, I still need to check it out, man.
Yeah, and he also talks about like the origins of like the human race and stuff, and it's really, really interesting because I know we've talked about that and like aliens and all that stuff, but it's like a part of our DNA and in our chromosomes, something that is it's our second chromosome, like chromosome 2, and the fact that it's like two pieces that have been spliced and like put together, and it's actually it's scientifically proven that it's been two have been linked together, and that can't happen, or it's never happened naturally in any other animal or life form on Earth. So it's almost like really mental, almost like throwing out the thing of like, there was some tampering with how humans were created. There is evolution is a thing, but there's also like a gap in evolution with humans, and it's like something actually did something to make those chromosomes like join, and that's what makes us human. It's what makes us have this like self-realization and separates us from nature, like how we are, you know. And that blew my mind as well. So he goes real in depth and like eloquent into all that stuff as well. So it's like it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it sounds. Yeah, man, I still need to watch it. There's like loads of. This thing is, so many good pods out nowadays. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm like such a fan of trigonometry nowadays and Andrew Gold's Heretics as well. Funnily enough, Andrew Gold's Heretics, I'm listening to one, and it's really funny as well because it's like not his usual guest. It's not like the usual type of guest he'd have on, but I'm listening to one. I'm halfway through at the moment with Robbie Williams.
Oh yeah.
But mate, I'll tell you what, it's really good, and Robbie's like very insightful, but in like a very beautiful way. And in a way, it's like listening to the podcast, it feels like I could just be like talking to a mate, because he's very much like that in terms of like he's like. And to be honest, man, like I'm exactly the same as him. Like I have a lot of my views are similar to Robbie's in terms of like I don't like the whole like you're classed as left or right thing. Like I understand that like people are always going to put you into a box and a category because it's maybe it's easier for them to categorize or process things in their own brain. Like I understand, but I at the same time I feel like putting words on some things sometimes can have a negative effect potentially. Like for example, and what I mean by this is like because it could be misleading. So if you were introduced to somebody as like, this is Drew, then you're going into that, okay, I'm meeting this guy and his name's Drew. That's all I know. I'm open-minded. If I said, this is Drew, you know, he once shot a duck.
Right-wing Nazi.
He once shot a duck, and he's a Nazi. Then you're going to go like, oh, and do you know what I mean? It's already giving me this view of you, like I might not want to talk to this guy, but it's misleading. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I don't like the whole names thing. Like if I like. And the thing is, like, you know, like, of course, you know, most people know people from a broad spectrum of backgrounds and opinions. Do you know what I mean? And I would never, like, not be friends with somebody because they didn't have different views with me, as long as they were respectful. I don't like the fact that, like, there are certain people I know that have put out, say, some, like, really extremist comments that I am seeing as extremist comments that are negative towards certain parts of the population and stuff. I just think it's sort of like a shame, I think. You know what I mean? If I think like, these are like people that, you know, I've hung out with in the past, and, you know, they're like really demonizing like a certain segment of society or putting out quite hate-filled stuff. You know, not like what we do is where we like talk about statistics and talk about concerns and discuss things. It's more like, these people are bad, and, you know what I mean, or whatever. So yeah. But I don't think in general, like putting like, you know, this person's left or this person's right. I don't necessarily see the benefit in that. I don't think it's
advisory.
I think exactly. And Robbie was basically saying the same thing. He was like, I'm not necessarily right. I'm not necessarily left. I'm not necessarily centre. He was like, all I know is, and he was talking about like, I know the Charlie Kirk like shooting is just like, how could you possibly say that was justified or okay, or do you know what I mean, or like how like the assassination attempt of Trump, and he was saying the fact that like 2 weeks after it happened, it was like no even conversation about it. It's like old news, and he was like, how can something like that be so just treated as like normal or acceptable, and then you've even got people like excusing it and making excuses for it, and he was like saying how awful that is. Do you know what I mean? But then all this other stuff as well, and I was just thinking like, he's actually like quite a beautiful soul, Robbie. He's definitely nuts, but like in a real nice way. Do you know what I mean? He was saying how he goes to bed at like 6 a.m. every morning, and he just stays up all night watching YouTube videos, going down rabbit holes, and like I think one day he said on his tour he like went to bed at like 12 p.m. and then he had to be on stage at like 8 p.m. so he had like 4 hours sleep, and then got up and then had to like get ready for his gig and that. And I was like, mate, he's a freaking nutter, isn't he? But like in this real beautiful way. And yeah, it was real. It did crack me up as well, because like literally like 5 minutes into the show, like obviously Andrew's like a very eloquent and sort of like soft-spoken, like sophisticated guy. And he was sort of like, you know, doing the whole sort of intro to Robbie and that, and going on about how he was a fan of his. And then I think he asked him like why he thinks the way he does or something. He was like, well, I'm a chimp. But he said it in like such a serious way that it was almost like comical. Do you know what I mean? Like saying that he was a chimp. But yeah, love Robbie. You should watch that one, man. That's a good one.
Yeah. No, I saw it come up, and I was like, "Whoa, that's cool." He's got like Robbie Williams on the podcast.
Yeah, I need to send it to Josh because Josh will definitely love that. Josh will definitely love that.
Yeah, but I haven't watched the chimp movie.
No, neither have I. Josh went to the cinema to watch it, didn't he, with Bullwinkle?
Yeah,
that's so funny. Of course he did. But yeah, I need to send it to Josh because I don't know if Josh like follows Heretic or something. For some reason, I could just imagine that he wouldn't. So I don't know if he even knows the podcast exists, but. I definitely know that he would love it.
Recently, but I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah, I really like the people he had. He had a really good one on recently with like the it was like the former head of the Metropolitan Police, and because obviously like say like the like the stabbings that took place in Manchester at the synagogue and that.
Oh yeah, man.
Crazy. By that guy that was his name was Jihad. Did you know that?
Yeah,
that's mental.
And his dad had put like his dad, I saw some posts that his dad had put up a couple of days before or something, and it was just like, oh my god, like, yeah.
I think it turned out that his like mum was all in on it as well. Like his like the guy's mum and dad were just, they'd obviously like raised him to be an extremist, Yeah. And as I said to people, just to say, we're not saying that every obviously person of that faith, is bad. Obviously, look, if you're, as I said,
if you're a good person, you're a good person.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're a bad person, you're a bad person.
So one of my really good friends is a British Pakistani whose family comes from like a Muslim background. Do you know what I mean? He's like a really good friend of mine. Like never ever, I try and take everybody as they come. I don't care what religion somebody is, what sex somebody is, what country they're from. But at the same time, as I said, sometimes figures don't lie, stats don't lie, and there are some real, it's not good to have your head buried in the sand. About certain things. But, and as I said, a bit like what I was saying earlier about how, if we do over-normalize it, it does actually, in a lot of ways, it is actually counterproductive. It's like, by allowing all of these, say, awful things that are happening, if it happens that like a large percentage of these things are, say, done by the Islamic population of the UK, because we're actually allowing in bad people that happen to be of the Islamic faith, then that's actually to the detriment of maybe people that have been contributing to this society, that have maybe been legal immigrants in this country, say for 60, 70, 80 years, that actually are Muslims, but have like assimilated into the British way of life and actually are decent people. Now that might affect their quality of life in a bad way, because people might naturally be, I don't know, maybe fearful of them or suspicious of them or something. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, everyone should just be more like Robbie Williams.
Yeah.
Embrace your inner chimp. Yeah, one thing that's concerned me, man, recently, talking about the authoritarian thing, is at the moment the government are trying to pass what's called what they're calling, it's the opposite of this really, the Children's Wellbeing in School Bills Act. I don't know if you've heard about that at all. And it's
I haven't looked into it, but I've heard it on like a headline.
Yeah, so the bill will affect every child. Many UK parents are still unaware of this. It's in Parliament right now, and it's on its way to becoming law. It contains information about how every child will be assigned a digital number to link all of their records and share their private information and track the child's details. It also contains information about how the government is eroding parental choice when it comes to the child's education and instead handing more control to the state. So it's like one of the reasons why a lot of people are massively concerned, myself included, is because it would take away, say, a parent's right to homeschool their child or to put their child into flexi schooling, which is a massively concern to me, because my child is in flexi schooling. So my child goes to primary school 4 days a week, but then has 1 day off where she goes to forest school, and then and then for the rest of the hours of the school day that she's not at forest school, she just is schooled from home, and then sometimes like my wife will take her to like a museum, or always tries to make it educational, because that's really, really important. But so if that bill goes through, if that bill gets passed, every single child in the UK will have to go 5 days a week. And I think when you already consider that there's already like a lot of concerns from parents, because like certain ideologies are like being pushed hard in schools at the moment, and it's like to me it's a breach of trust between the school and the parents as well, because we don't send our kids to school to have an ideology pushed on them. We send our kids to school so they can learn to read and write and learn the basic science and maths and things like that and basic history, because most parents have to work. So while we're working, there's a job designed, i.e. teacher, that does that for you while you're at work. We do not send our kids to school to have political ideologies pushed on schools. And I know a lot of people would say, we try and make out that it's not political. It is political. Any ideology that is pushed on a child at school is a political ideology, and to make out that it's not is disingenuous, and it's sneaky, and it's corrupt. It should be up to the parents what they decide to bring up their children like, with what values they want to bring up their children like, and then once the children then get to a certain age, from that point on, it's at the discretion of the individual, of that child, essentially. It's not up to the school, to be pushing different ideologies on the kids. So yeah, it's really concerning, man, and really corrupt. So there is a petition going around, just like with the digital ID thing. There is one of those petitions going around about, getting it like, what's the word, like dismissed or whatever you want to call it. But there is one of those petitions, everyone knows what I'm on about. It comes out and it's like a green thingy and you have to click it and then you have to sign it or whatever. So please, if anyone's listening, please do that, because, I think it's never a good idea. Any of the ideas that are always just about giving the state and giving the government more control, it's never a good idea. We are the taxpayers.
Don't you think it's just happening so much now as well? Like, we're hearing about something new every week. First it was the Online Safety Act, then it was digital IDs, now it's this, and it's all happening in such quick succession. And like, I couldn't have even imagined this stuff like 10 years ago or whatever, And it's crazy how all of this stuff is like ramping up so much. But the actual implications of how they will change our life and how they will change society are like so big. But it's just being passed through like without us. Like you say, a lot of people don't even know it's happening. Yeah, it's like so crazy.
Yeah, man. It's just never a good idea. Do you know what I mean? Really, we should have as small scale a government as possible. The control should be as much in the civilians' hands, in the everyday people's hands as possible. And we should have as much freedom as possible. And then the government are elected officials that like fulfill the wishes of the public, not the other way around. Not that we're an authoritarian state where we fulfill the wishes of the government.
It puts you in a state of fear, man. Like, I literally feel fearful of the implications of the state. What rules and all of that stuff. Like, as a free person, you shouldn't be fearful of that. You should be like worried about the important things in life, about your family and about like, being a human being, not like worried about all of the restrictions that are going to be put on you, or the ideologies that are going to be implanted into your kid's head, and all of that. It's like, that's not something you should even worry about. It's becoming like my biggest worry, because it's just happening in front of our eyes,
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, no, it's scary times, and especially when you hear about, like, as I said, I keep coming back to it, but I think we're so, as a nation in general, there are so many people that are so apathetic to it. But then let's face it, where does this lead? Where does this authoritarian movement lead? We know that in North Korea, it's led to like life in exile, life imprisonment in like a little dark room where you're just put until you die because the state don't like what you're saying. Is that what like when do things like that start happening? When do you start getting like, you know what I mean?
Gets pointed, that would never happen, Yeah. But it's like, well, it could.
Yeah, and there's already mental things happening. So it's not much of a stretch to just think that another mental thing might happen.
Carry on.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like,
at that rate.
If there are already like 4 or 5 mental things happening, it's not much of a stretch to think that one more mental thing might happen, And then they try and word it in a clever way, like it was it was a danger to society or something like that, which on paper sounds really good. Like, oh, well, of course you want to get rid of people that are a danger to society. But it's, you know, a danger to who?
It's the way
Society.
it's been snuck in.
Yeah. A danger to who?
Do you know about like the poll tax thing? Like, because like
like
people
Thatcher.
have because people have been using that as an example of where there's been
How that destroyed her career.
And how it's because did it happen that like a lot of people didn't agree with it and kind of revolted against it?
Oh yeah,
and then
yeah,
it couldn't
yeah.
happen.
No,
because I don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
or
and
did
then
it still happen?
Do you know what, mate? I don't know. For some reason, I think that it might.
Because a lot of people with a digital ID thing are
comparing it
to that and saying that like if enough people don't want to do it,
saying like this is Starmer's poll tax. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. But I don't know enough about it to know if people did actually just flat out refuse and then the government couldn't implement it. Because like that kind of gives me hope a bit, like that you know, even though it's going to be mandatory, and if enough people do band together and say we're not having this, then they can't do anything about it anyway. You know, that rebel side of me like thinks, oh, amazing, okay, well I hope this happens with the digital ID thing, and with stuff like this with schools. Like I won't let my kid go to school. Like, well, you know, if that is the case,
I've heard some people say that you know, they literally would rather go to prison than see digital ID then accept digital ID, you know?
Yeah.
So I think if enough people just say, if enough people just go,
because
no.
That's it, strength in numbers and all that. If enough people did say no, it would be like, they wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, so it says, I've just looked at the poll tax. The community charge, colloquially known as the poll tax, was a system of local taxation introduced by Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government, whereby each taxpayer was taxed the same fixed sum, with a precise amount being set by each local authority. It replaced domestic rates in Scotland from 1989, prior to its introduction in England and Wales from 1990. The repeal of the poll tax was announced in 1991, and in 1993, the current system of the council tax was instated. So there you go. But yeah, I know that.
So it did.
Yeah, so it was abolished. So by the time of the 1992 general election, legislation had been passed replacing the poll tax with the council tax. From the start of the 93 to 94 financial year, the VAT rate of 17.5% remained despite an earlier policy of charging a higher poll tax. Council tax strongly resembles the rates system of tax that had been in effect prior to the poll tax. The main differences were that properties were placed in bands based on a range of property values, thereby capping the maximum amount, and that the tax was levied on the property's capital value rather than on its national rental value. Households with only one occupant were also entitled to a 25% discount. The only substantial change since the introduction of the council tax form of direct taxation is the gradual introduction of certain exemptions and discounts. In 2015, any remaining debt was written off in Scotland with the passage of the Community Charge Debt of Scotland Act 2015. But yeah, it basically killed her political career because, obviously she was, even like a lot of people within the Conservative Party were like, we're not for this, Thatcher. And then John Major took over as PM in 1990, I think. Obviously after John Major, it was Tony Blair, and then Labour were in charge for a while with Tony Blair. And yeah, here we are.
Here we are. So that's interesting, you know, it didn't actually say how many people, like what. It'd be interesting to know what happened with, like, did people just not pay it and stuff, like what, whether because there would have been pressure from like the government, but also from the people if they just flat out refused. What are you going to do? Like, just arrest everyone, you know?
I think for me, at least, you know, I can only be hopeful, but it needs to be the nail in the coffin for Starmer. I mean, I don't think I've ever disliked a prime minister of our country as much as I do him. And don't get me wrong, there's several factors for that. I mean, it might just be my age. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't even like thinking about obviously stuff like this when I was like a teenager. But I just think he's just done. You know, we were in a bad situation when he took over. I didn't think it was a good idea to have Labour in the first place. But I could understand, considering how bad the last Conservative government was. I could sympathise with why people voted in Labour. It seemed like the more, I guess, the most, I guess, like risk-free thing to do at the time. But
and then look how much worse it's got since.
It's just gone from like, you know, it's like out of the frying pan into the fire, isn't it? You know, like things have just got worse. Things have just got worse and worse. So I you know, the sooner he's out, and the sooner Labour are out, I think the better, as far as I'm concerned, man.
But could that happen? Is it? Have we just got to wait till like 4 years? Like,
well, there's been a freaking petition going around literally pretty much ever since since 3 months after he came in, isn't there? Like, calling for a re-election. He's basically just like, no, this isn't how it works. Yeah. This isn't how it works. Yeah. No. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? Because it's like, it makes you think, like, what has to happen? I mean, obviously there are examples throughout history of like mass protests and all this crazy stuff that have happened in the past. But it's like, yeah, what actually like has to happen for us to actually like implement change or see change, or do we just have to wait? Like, yeah, mad, crazy.
It's interesting, man. Crazy times we live in.
Crazy times we live in, man. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there for this one. Super serious and political pod we've had this week.
It's always me and you have a proper chat. It goes real serious.
Yeah, keeping in the serious concerns of the nation and the wider world. But as I said, I think it's because we're both 35 now. Also, we're both dads, and like, as I said, we're concerned about the future of our kids. And at the end of the day, we just want what's best for our man-child. And at the end of the day, we just want what's best for like our kids, and we're concerned about the way this country is going, and we just want everything to be nice and and I want everything to smell.
To be good for everybody.
Yeah, what is it? Just be peace and love, man. Peace and love for us. Love. Just be nice to each other, right?
With a little bit of whiskey on the side.
Oh, that's all right, mate. Be good to thy neighbour and all of that stuff. Yeah, guys, we'll leave it there for this week. We'll be back next week with more shenanigans. We'll have more of like a chill, silly one next week. Yeah, Mo can come back and tell us about how a Mongolian blueberry, whatever is getting on. Bob went on blue spot is getting on. But yeah, cheers everyone. You've been listening to PB. If you don't already, please go give us a follow on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. Just look us up, Pandora's Box Podcast. Give us a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time, have a good one, everybody. We love you.